So my name is Kim Merrick, and for my Capstone Experience project, I created a peer partner culinary arts course proposal that I'm going to present to you today. So the description of the project: the purpose of the project is to generate a course curriculum that will be for a semester-long culinary class that is special education students peer partnered with general education students. The objectives for the project was, one, to be able to determine the rationale behind creating this course and identify the needs that this course will meet in relation to the district goals. To create the course outline that determines the course objective and the national standards for family and consumer sciences. To create a framework that details each unit of study for the course. The framework will include student learning objectives and align to the course goals. And then lastly, to complete a course proposal for a peer partner culinary arts class. So this is what the course description would look like. The course is a peer partnered foods class. The general education students will work collaboratively with the special education students in a combination of both lab and classroom experiences that introduces students to food preparation and nutrition. The curriculum is structured to teach special education students food science principles and culinary techniques as they prepare a variety of recipes. The students will begin to develop culinary and pastry skills, including recipe reading, knife skills, culinary math, and proper safety and sanitation. So then this is the course proposal. I'm proposing that the course consists of 6 different units. The first unit would be culinary fundamentals, the basics. The second unit would be quick breads. The third unit would be knife skills. The fourth unit would be dry heat methods. The fifth unit would be grains and mother sauces. And the sixth unit would be pies. Within that, each unit will contain a unit description, learning standards that each student will be aimed to meet, facts national standards, 21st century skills, life and career skills, an essential understanding for each student, essential questions for each student to answer, content knowledge that each student should get for each unit, the main skills of each unit, and then an assessment for each unit. So one of the learning standards that's going to be Common Core, this will be throughout each unit. We picked one to focus on there, and it's going to be literacy in history, social studies, science, and technical subjects. The main idea is through key ideas and details. The standard itself is to cite specific textual evidence to support the analysis of science and technical texts, attending to the precise details and explanations or descriptions. Essentially what that means is through reading recipes, that's where they'll obtain that standard through. The second one is the list of standards for family and consumer sciences. These are the general ones. From there, there's each different subtopic. I didn't list all of those, but this is the main one. And then from there, based on each unit, it could be a little bit more detailed. So it's 8.0, food production and services. 8.2, demonstrate food safety and sanitation procedures. 8.3, demonstrate industry standards in selecting, using, and maintaining food production and food service equipment. 8.4, demonstrate menu planning principles and techniques based on standardized recipes to meet customer needs. 9.0, food science, dietetics, and nutrition. 9.2, apply risk management procedures to food safety, food testing, and sanitation. And 9.6, demonstrate food science, dietetics, and nutrition management principles and practices. Then also within each unit of study, we're aiming to have students achieve 21st century student outcomes, and we focused on learning and innovation skills and to collaborate with others. So essentially what we want each student to be able to do within each unit is demonstrate an ability to work efficiently and respectively with diverse teams, to exercise flexibility and willingness to be helpful in making necessary compromises to accomplish a common goal. And lastly, to assume shared responsibilities for collaborative work and value the individual contributions made by each team member. So we see them kind of doing that a little bit more through their lab procedures there. And then lastly, of course, the curriculum, we want life and career skills in there as well. Social and cross-cultural skills to interact effectively with others. We want the students to be able to know when it's appropriate to listen and when to speak, and to conduct themselves in a respectable professional manner. So those are the standards that each unit will go through in detail. Now for the course proposal itself, I also aimed, why is it important to have this course presented to Neuqua Valley High School? So we're aiming to meet some of the goals that are set by the Board of Education. So one of the goals for the Board of Education is to help all students grow socially, emotionally, and academically. So the goal was by the end of the 2019-2020 school year, the average Ames Web student growth percentile in reading and math will be greater than the 60th percentile. So by presenting this course, we hope that will increase students' reading and math skills by having them use culinary-related terms and culinary-related math within the course. Also, by the end of the 2021 school year, the district will fully adopt and implement evidence-based programs and practices in all schools and grade levels that explicitly address students' social and emotional competencies. So by creating this class, we're allowing general education students to peer partner with the special education students in an academic environment that is least restrictive for all the students. The class of students will work together to follow a curriculum that will enhance the students' abilities to social and emotionally develop their life skills. And then the second goal that we aimed to reach from the Board of Education was to hire and retain high-quality, effective teachers, school leaders, and support staff. So by the end of 2020 academic school year, the retained proportion of teachers rated excellent will be maintained at or above 95% of the early childhood, elementary, middle, and high school levels. So our goal is to hire and retain 4 family and consumer science teachers within the career and technical education department. So that's kind of how we see that goal being met there. Then just a little bit more details about the course proposal there. So there is a prerequisite to having the course. We're proposing that the general education students will need to have taken Culinary 1 as a prerequisite to this course, because essentially they're going to be working as the teachers to that class, so they need to have the background knowledge from the curriculum of Culinary 1 to then turn around and take a class to be able to teach that. Any professional development activities needed, we're proposing that the curriculum writing hours for 3 teachers, 1 from each high school, for 18 months, given also an opportunity to observe some special education students to determine their educational needs in the classroom, and time to work with the special education teachers to create a suitable curriculum. We kind of see this aimed towards special education programs that the students are not all day pushed into general education classrooms. So it would be just the students that are pushed in maybe 1 or 2 classes a day is the population that we're looking for this class. Projected staffing implications are to increase the family and consumer science staffing to have 4 full-time teachers. Some building modifications. We thought maybe new tables and chairs in the main foods room in A124 to accommodate for the physical needs of the special education students, whether that be that they need a little bit more space to move, any other equipment they may need in there, just getting a more conducive environment for that. And then what additional financial impact? We kind of looked at a possible textbook that would give some information that would be more on their level. Funds for online resources and special programming for anything that's with their Chromebooks or any other type of technology that the special education students would need. So then beyond that, I took my course proposal and I had to think about how does this fit into the large scheme of what it is to be a human services professional in family and consumer sciences. And there's definitely a need for FACS and foods curriculum. So a curriculum for special education students that's centered around food preparation will promote independent living. These topics include food purchasing and food preparation. So it's important for these students to need to know how to read menus, budget, to grocery shop, to be able to use their math skills for measuring, reading, and sequencing. It's been said that career and technical education at the secondary level are effective classes for special education students because their success is determined by the application and performance of skills. So that's what we would see them doing in the class. They would be able to come to the class and be able to perform these skills in a natural environment for them. When students with disabilities are placed in a larger general education class, they demonstrate greater gains because it leads to more opportunities for socialization and more cognitive gains through peer modeling. So what we're aiming for is for the special education students to be able to see that peer modeling to be able to socialize with general education students as well. These life skills are required for everyday living, and they're essential for students with or without disabilities after they age out of high school. Many students with disabilities do not learn these skills on their own, and they have to be taught them in class. This instruction should occur in both classroom and community settings in order to ensure that students can apply their learned skills in the daily environment. So that's what we're aiming to be able to do there. Then there's two human development theories that I looked at. In family and consumer sciences, we have a lot of different human development theories, but two of the ones that I focused on there was the first one was Piaget and his cognitive development theory, because during the formal operational stage, people develop their ability to think about abstract concepts. These skills such as logical thought, deductive reasoning, and systematic planning also emerge during this stage. So throughout the proposed written curriculum, there'll be evidence of incorporating these into daily activities and assignments. Also, school-age children have more success in Piaget-like classrooms because it proves that they have the opportunity to understand the logic of the task, kind of like, why do things happen that way? So young adults are very effective when performing in an inclusion classroom. They're also more likely to have faster responses and a better change to activate a strategy. So kind of learning new ways to go about doing things. The second stage that I focused on is probably my favorite, Erickson, and his psychosocial stages. It just so happens that the proposed curriculum is directed towards high school students, and so they're in the stage of identity versus confusion. This is what happens to them during their teenage years. So the high school students will explore their sense of personal identity by experiences and interactions with others, which will help guide their actions, beliefs, and behaviors. So what happens is most teenagers, including special education teenagers, struggle with self-identity. So they're establishing who they are in relation to their changing role and their status, being able to develop by participating in new experiences and family different relationships will lead to adulthood is an essential component of their development. So we're trying to build on that, like how can they learn who they are by working with different population, diverse population, and identify who they are as individuals. Public policy. So public policy is a big impact on education. Obviously, students need to be able to qualify for special education services. Some things that happen with that is they're usually qualified based on their IQ cutoff. They have to have some type of adaptive behavior, or they have their academic achievement there, and that's how they determine some special education services. In each state, there's a struggle to identify what that special number is, who qualifies and who doesn't qualify there. So when testing IQ and standardized achievement, that's kind of what they're looking for in terms of performance. To assist them when they created these special education services, response to intervention, RTI, was created to kind of help these kids who are at risk and failure identify students with learning disabilities and some of their at-risk behaviors there. Special education programs then continue to change over time depending on the needs of the students there. Also the needs of federal regulation and how we have to have legislation and all of that, so that affects it. The laws also change the roles of not only schools but then special education teachers within the classroom there. So teachers have to learn to adapt to separate services, separate settings for different identified students, separate classrooms for full inclusion, inclusive programming, mainstreaming, pull out, push in is all different for general education classes there. How does human diversity and global issues impact the project? Obviously, special education is big across all aspects of education there, but the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is what makes sure that students are placed in a classroom that covers their IEP and is also the least restrictive environment, and that's what we're aiming to create with our classroom there. Federally mandated special education services are making sure that students with disabilities are educated in the least restrictive environment and have access to the general curriculum. They participate in the assessments and are able to reach the same academic benchmarks as their peers without disabilities. Obviously, it doesn't have to be on the same level, but we're aiming to still give them the same information that we're presenting our general education students with. Students can be placed in different classrooms, which may cause them to be physically and socially isolated throughout the school day. This type of placement can impact their determination, their relationship with teachers and classmates. So we're trying to create an environment where students feel like they can perform and be the most successful in. Most students are receiving special education services and emotional behavior support are white. This information is based on the student's academic achievement, behavioral functioning. That's one area that we need to focus on because there's minority students that are continuing to face barriers, and we need to make sure that they're entitled to the same services as well. And then lastly, professional ethics. Being a teacher is sometimes very difficult, so in order to create this class and make it the best that it can possibly be, we're looking at co-teaching. And effective co-teaching means that the special education teacher helps design and implement the strategies that are effective with students with disabilities and other special education needs. Having a co-taught classroom is the best environment for a peer-partnered foods class because the teachers are working collaboratively to accomplish the specific content being taught in the curriculum proposed. With collaborative planning, it helps the students benefit with and without disabilities because the teachers, the special education teachers and the general education teachers are working together to create the most authentic means of instruction and assessment to make sure the curriculum is available to a diverse group of learners. So making sure that we're meeting the needs of everybody in there. Co-teaching has been a successful instructional approach to meeting the needs of all students in an inclusion classroom. However, there needs to be effective training, so we're making sure that the teachers are fully supportive there in a co-teaching classroom, so they're provided with those strategies to implement it. Then obviously working conditions for teachers are difficult, so just making sure policy leaders and school leaders are supportive in creating an environment that's best for the teachers and students to learn in. And that's essential to making sure that the teachers have enough planning time and enough access to instructional services there. And then I just have my slides of references here. Any questions?
Just a few, very thorough. You answered one of them. It would be co-taught with a sped teacher or just TAs. You said co-taught. Would you still have TAs in there, or would that just depend on the student?
I think that depends on the population of the students and what specifically their IEPs mean and what they need. And obviously there are some populations that have nurses and things that have to be in there. And I think it would just also depend on what is the ratio of general education kids to special education kids and how those needs all play into it.
Are there TAs in co-taught classes right now?
Yes.
Okay. Just, and then I just had a couple other things that were coming to mind. What's your ideal class size? Regular versus, like having the general ed students versus sped? What do you foresee?
I think our classes right now are 24. I don't see fitting more than 24 bodies into that classroom. That's a lot of students to have in there. I would like to have as equal of a ratio of the general education students to the special education students as possible.
So it's 1-to-1?
Yeah, that would be my goal. So if we could have 12 special education students, 12 regular ed students, that would be ideal there.
With all the curriculum you want to go through, I know obviously it's going to be modified. Do you think you'll be able to get through all that? And is teaching the things like the dry heat methods and mother sauces and things like that, do you think that's a good concept for them to learn?
I think that's where meeting with, during the curriculum writing process, meeting with the special education teachers and finding what their expertise is on what the levels are of their students is going to help us take the content that we know as family and consumer science teachers and the information that they have as special education teachers and blend those together to find what are the most important skills that we want the students to receive out of that course.
Gotcha. Some of it might be challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was thinking, just a thought in my head when you were talking about textbooks for the class too. Another idea might be, and this could come with the curriculum, or instead of having a textbook, you have a workbook that you create every year that has worksheets in it that the students can do to help them to understand, but that may come as the curriculum gets developed.
Right, and I know working with some of the special education teachers in the past, some of them have different programs that they use. They use pictures for recipes that are interactive and things like that, and so having those resources would be good for any of the general education teachers or working with that population and the students there.
Was there one question I had?
Kind of along with curriculum, and you answered a little bit. One of your goals was reading, and I'm also kind of thinking math. So the special education students who would be in there, those skills are pretty low for those. So have you thought about ways like I mean, if we gave a recipe for chocolate cake right now,
Mhm.
that's never gonna work.
Right.
You kind of answered with the pictures just now, but have you thought about ways that you could meet that goal for those students?
Yes, I think a lot of that is first figuring out like the terminology in there. A lot of the terminology for special education students is new for them when it comes to cooking. So identifying that through pictures. And then the main goal with the general education students in the class is to have them come up with ways that they can help teach, because they're at that same age, maybe not cognitively at the same spot, but they might have learned those skills a specific way in culinary one, where they're like, okay, now I can take my knowledge and I can teach a special education student, and this would be the best way for them to understand it. So pictures would be a good one. I think also just hands-on experimenting is going to be a lot of what we see in that class, kind of taking those everyday life skills that we want the kids to have and experimenting that way.
And then the last question about general ed.
Mm-hmm.
So say we open this up, you've got 40 gen ed kids interested, you have 12 spots. Are you gonna pick?
Application
What's the process?
some form of an application process. I have been in contact. We have a peer partnered PE class here, so one of the things I've been in contact with is one of the teachers there and said, how do you go about selecting your students? And they do an application process. I think our one benefit is that having kids, the prereq of having them take culinary one, then as teachers we can sit down and say, this was a student that was very successful, that would do well in being in an environment to be able to teach or peer partner with someone. This would be a student that maybe just wants to take a foods class again, and we can narrow them and filter them that way.
Excellent. That's all I got.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Nice job.
That's it.